administer
Sorry.
the grant program, CPF and BEAD in particular.
I'm Melanie Coletti. I'm the digital equity manager for the state of Colorado. I work out of the Office of the Future of Work.
I'm Lauren Francis. I'm the Broadband Marcom communications manager. So I handle all communications from the Broadband office.
One day I want to have a title that says I work for the Office of Future Work.
Yeah. Yes.
Office of the Future of Work. Yeah. Come on over.
So you don't have to work until the
Standing.
future.
Yeah.
I know, well,
It's a very easy job.
It's so futuristic. I'm a sci-fi.
Sounds
nerd,
really
so
important.
It does. It does.
That's very cool. So awesome. I know our commissioners are on their way here from another meeting in Idaho Springs. So they'll probably come flying in the door and just join us at the table. So, but if you guys want to get started and with your presentation, and we'll just move through it, and if we have to backtrack a little for some people, that's, yeah. Okay.
You can share the presentation and we could start at the digital equity, which is slide 25.
Yeah.
Oh, should we? I'm sorry. There are some people online. Should we?
Oh, okay. We can do it in regular. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I was just gonna say, do they want to introduce themselves?
Yes.
Oh, yes, please, please. Yep.
Sure, I can introduce. I'm Damon Pugh. I lead the IT department for the county.
Perfect.
I'm Paige Osmond. I'm with OIT's Government Affairs team. I'm a senior policy advisor, and I support the Colorado Broadband Office.
Cool.
All right.
Hi, Stephanie. I work in Clear Creek County's mapping department. I'm also part of the broadband effort.
Love it. Okay. Cool. I just didn't want them to think they were forgotten.
Nope.
Also, I'm recording this and it's only, does that record into our cloud, that thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
it should.
Okay. Just.
Stephanie is our Megan Gernert.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I always think it's important to have a GIS person on your project team.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
They have an incredible perspective, so. Okay, now let me go for it.
Okay.
I mean, we'll start with the digital equity, but you know, this is our 2024 summer roadshow for focusing on BEAD grant program that's upcoming. Last year, we did the 2024 show, 2023 show, and we were mainly focusing on CPF, the Colorado Project Fund, which is now ongoing. It has been awarded. About 90% of the vendors that got awarded are actually working. Some of them have shovels in the ground. Some of them are getting really close to actually lighting up some locations. So we're kind of like working on both at the same time. So CPF is ongoing, it's in progress, and we're getting ready and we're gearing up to do the BEAD. So you could imagine the Colorado Broadband Office is really busy at this time. We really wanted to attend and do the 2024 summer roadshow, just like we did for 2023. The only difference is in 2023, we had a big, was it, what do we call it? The webinar or?
The roundtable?
The,
Talking about?
no, the one we had in the hotel.
Oh, the summit.
The
We had a
summit,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
the word I'm looking for. We
Yeah.
had a big summit that really about over 400 people attended.
Oh.
We decided this year to opt out of that one just due to really the workload that we have. We continue to do these roadshows. This is part of our community engagement. We're really committed to understanding all the communities. We want to engage with all the communities. We want to know what the communities need, what the communities know, what the communities don't know, and also be there available for them and make them familiar with all of our programs so they can take advantage of them. So in this meeting, we'll be talking about a little bit about what we did in 2023, CPF. We'll be talking about what we're doing for our upcoming BEAD grant program, and we'll be talking about other programs that we're working on as well throughout 2023 and 2024, and our digital equity program. For this meeting, we're going to start with our digital equity. Melanie,
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, so since we're a little out of order, if we could jump down to like slide 26. And we'll start there and then, as people come in, we'll be able to have them catch a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So as everybody knows, we are in Region 3. This is Region 9 slide, so that's an old slideshow. That's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
you can just sit there.
Okay.
That's fine. I will say out loud that the total population of Region 3, of course, is Denver, Arapahoe, all these giant counties. And then Clear Creek County, as you know, is like less than 10,000 people. So one of the things we're thinking about as we are dispersing digital equity funds is we're thinking about how many of each covered population, and covered populations are like legislated in the federal funding that we're using. So it's Georgetown Loop.
I love it.
I know. So it's
Yeah.
veterans, people who have disabilities, older adults, people who've been marginalized and who are disconnected digitally across the state. So we're using the American Communities Survey for numbers, and the last count was in 2022. About 30% of the residents in Clear Creek County are over 60. Around 10% report having a disability. And of course, Clear Creek County is rural, 100% rural. So all of those factors are going to play into the amount that the communities get. And just so there's some understanding, our funding is very limited. We thought we were getting $20,000 $20 million in one tranche. And what happened is now we're getting the money hopefully doled out to us in 3 tranches. The first tranche is 12 million. And so that's about half of what we were expecting. So what we're using the money for is to provide backbone support to communities to form digital inclusion coalitions. We want people to do like little asset maps, like who's teaching the tech classes, who's attending them, who has devices to give away, and like, those are the kinds of things we need to know so that we know what people are going to look for funding for. Our job is going to be to support the creation of these little coalitions, maybe, 2, 3 organizations or as many as are willing to participate to identify the needs of the communities. And then once those coalitions are formed, we will go out and try to very creatively think about how we can get funding to those coalitions to support whatever programs they want to implement. We're also going to provide the marketing support. The obviously great communication will be available if these coalitions are all meeting together, and with our office, we have a direct line of communication to our friends at the Broadband office. So we hope that this is going to create this ecosystem that is like really efficient so that we can get money where it needs to quickly. We're also going to have fiscal sponsors supporting these coalitions so that no one organization or government has to be the fiscal sponsor. And they can do the grant management and all that, because these are going to be doozies. And you already have enough to worry about with broadband, right? So the slide that is on the screen is just some of the information we learned about digital inequities in Colorado. I know probably everyone on this call knows these things already. Internet is too expensive. It's unreliable. Sometimes people want to learn how to use the internet, but they often don't know where to go for that. Websites are hard to use. They're not consistent. And lots of people, to the extent that they do not use the internet because they're so afraid of their personal information being online. This is especially true with the older adults. So we have our work cut out for us. The next slide shows who is in those covered populations. And so when we provide you the amount of funding that each county and or region can get, and we encourage counties to work together to combine those funds if they like. This is what we're using to come up with those formulas. Veterans, immigrants, people experiencing poverty, you probably know the groups. Yep. So we did a very robust public comment process and we are super proud of it. We wrote our digital access plan. It's like just under 200 pages and nobody of course, probably has time to read 200 pages. And so we created summaries that were more like 2 pages. And we used plain language for those and we translated them into 10 languages.
Love it.
So those are on our website if anybody wants to look at them. And that's sort of what we're basing our spending on. Like what was in our plan is what we're hoping to implement. But in those public comment sessions, we also did 19 organizations hosted them and people facilitated. We gave them little guidebooks and we said, ask these questions and see what you get. We responded to the facilitators. When people said, what happened to the input we gave? We told them what was incorporated into the plan, what wasn't. And we reached people who spoke Arabic, Oromifa, Amharic, Karen, like we really got a lot of feedback and it was really, really great because then we knew how to tweak our plan and what needed to happen. So next slide is our timeline. Our plan was approved in April by the NTIA. We are currently waiting to hear back if our application for capacity funds is accepted. Honestly, like it could be any day, any week now. We've been doing this carrying process with them to make sure everything is in order. And then we'll get our first tranche of 12 million later this year, hopefully in the fall and not the winter. And then our implementation will begin as soon as we receive the funds. And like I said, depending on any sorts of administration changes at the state level or the federal level, we hope that we'll get about $4 million in 2025 and another $4 million in 2026. We're not holding our breath on that. If this is all we get, we think we can still establish a really good ecosystem to start with. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of the access plan quickly. There are just 3 things that we're focusing on with this first tranche. I already mentioned the coalitions, the fiscal sponsors. Keep in mind, this is not money to support programs. It is specifically to create these coalitions. The only coalition that exists right now that we are aware of that has a digital access plan is Denver. And obviously they use some other funding to support that. But every other county and region in the state needs some support with this. And that's what we intend to do.
You two get to work. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, get busy. I'm just kidding. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. I won't belabor that. And if people want to reach out to me, please, you'll have my email address. I'm happy to meet with groups of people, individuals, whatever. Happy to talk about it. Based on the feedback we heard about increasing digital skills, we also have a pilot digital navigator program that's still going on. It finally got up and off the ground. This was some state legislation that was rolled into like some workforce stuff. We have until the end of June next year to spend this funding, but right now we have well over 30 navigators in place. They are strategically placed in rural workforce centers in Denver area right now. And Denver refugee serving organizations and rural workforce centers. So we have Alamosa, Durango. We did have Pueblo and that person left. They are ramping up their own digital navigator program in Pueblo. But what we're doing with this is not trying to expand that specifically. We're trying to collect data about what's working, what doesn't. We also have an AmeriCorps program going on at the same time where people are not employees, but are actually AmeriCorps members. So they get a stipend, but they're not getting a salary. So we're testing all these different things to see how it goes. And then the Office of eHealth Innovation, along with Colorado State Library, are working to actually launch a digital navigator program with competitive funds. So competitive funds are where they're encouraging partnerships and no less than $5 million applications. But if anybody wants to, those applications go directly to the NTIA. And so that's what those organizations are doing to launch their own digital navigator program that will still be state supported, but not through our office.
What does that look like physically? Like if a library does that and John Q. Public walks in and says, hey, I want to meet with this person. I want to get training. What does it physically look like?
Yeah, digital navigators are the trick, I think, to people developing digital skills. often, I worked in public libraries for 17 years before this role, and we would hold classes that were like Word. And people would be like, what is Word?
Yep.
Or what would I use that for? And they
Mhm.
don't come to class.
Mhm.
Also, not everybody needs to learn Word.
Mhm.
So a digital navigator model is where someone walks into a library and says, somebody gave me this iPad and I have I supposedly I can talk to my grandkids in Florida, but I have no idea how.
Mhm.
That's a digital navigator appointment. And the person will sit with them and try and accomplish that one goal. And they will also ask questions about their needs and what other things they might be interested in using the iPad for. So it's this relationship building, individual support, because, I used to have people ask, I just want to learn everything. And I'm like, I don't even know everything. And I've been doing this since computers existed.
Yeah.
I know. I like to act like I do, but I don't. And so this is like a very strong model.
And so we have you have like so many navigators across the state in various locations
Mhm.
doing this exact
Mhm.
service.
Yep.
And are they sort of asking questions of people about their broadband service, broadband knowledge, broadband
Yep.
use?
All of that.
Okay.
All of that. And that data. So we have these very loose sort of intake forms. And if people are comfortable sharing any of their demographic information, or if it just comes up, the navigators are trained to sort of capture that. It's not identifiable in any way. We don't ask for names or numbers unless, they're rescheduling an appointment, but it's not attached to any of that. So, yeah, this is another great way that we can hear about people's experience with connectivity, how they want to use computers, what devices might be best for them, and even support, like refugees often are entitled to certain services, but if they don't have a device and they don't know how to get online or they don't have a connection, they can't access the services that they are
Mhm.
they are needing. And that's the case with lots of people with older adults, people with disabilities, people in
Low
rural
income.
areas. Yeah, I mean, it happens all over.
How are
so.
you reaching these people to let them know that this is going to be something that's available to them? Because obviously they may not be online.
Right.
So are there postcards going
Mhm.
out?
Yes. In the libraries, libraries are posting, we've centralized kind of our marketing materials. So the navigators have stickers, since this is a temporary program. It's got all the information about, like, this is what they do, this is what you can ask for help with, this is where people are located, and then they can put their own stickers with their phone numbers and contact info. But being that they sit in the workforce centers like sometimes 6-8 hours a day, and if people come in, they tell them like, hey, it looks like you're working on something. If you need any support, just let me know. I'm over here. Yeah.
Are they able to provide education on Wi-Fi and the home network, like the difference between internet and Wi-Fi, or is it just end user devices?
It's mostly end user devices. There have been some conversations about like supporting people in their homes because of smart TVs and because of, like all those things. We're thinking about what it might look like to do phone support. There's, it's always strange if you're like going into someone's house. So that's something that we're thinking about. But I think even phone support, or even if we could get people in person to the point that they could use their phone to show somebody what was going on in their home, that might be a solution to do. So,
Yeah, Wi-Fi
It's-
calling's a big one for us since
Yeah.
there isn't cell service.
Exactly.
yeah. And I mean, I think if somebody has a device, we can help them learn anything that's available on that device.
I use my nieces and nephews for that.
A lot of people do. A lot of
They
people
make
do.
great digital navigators, those teenagers.
Right?
No,
Totally.
so we're kind of detached from the Denver metro
Yeah,
area.
of course.
And we're trying to get we are in the process of getting a workforce presence in Idaho Springs.
Yep.
And I don't need to tell anybody in this room that apathy is alive and well in every community,
Yeah.
not just the rural community.
Yeah.
We have had great success, believe it or not, with direct mail.
Yeah.
2/3 of our population are on PO box.
Yep.
Can't miss them. Now, whether
Yep.
they read it or not
Yeah.
is part of the
Right.
apathy question, but
Right.
I mean, I don't know if there's a way that the navigator could be in Idaho Springs, like one day a week or one day a month even.
Yeah.
And because I feel like the whole reason we built the health center in Idaho Springs was the overlap of clients. So in that building, you have DHS.
Yep.
You have mental health services, you have public health.
Yep.
We're trying to get the workforce in there, and we have the only clinic we have in our entire county there.
Yep.
So
Yep.
the overlap of clients is
Yep.
overwhelming.
Yep.
Oh, and veterans.
Yep.
And advocate.
Yep.
You know, so
Totally.
having this presence there,
Well, I think there's a partner I forgot to mention with the Office of E-Health Innovation and the State Library. And that is, I can't remember what it's called, Rural Health Consortium, maybe? Because often people who are helping people with medical things
Mhm.
end up inadvertently helping people with digital
Mhm.
skills.
Hmm.
Same with career navigators, same with specifically digital navigators, end up helping with those. So one of the things we offer is a community of practice. Anybody who is a navigator of any type can come to those meetings once a month. But I will mention the workforce and like family health centers I know are,
Mhm.
it's like a catch-all.
Mhm.
So we also may be asking for letters, to maybe partner later on as this begins to roll out if they're awarded the funding. So stay tuned for that because, I think we want to have navigators in as many places as
Yeah.
possible.
And we're part of, I'm sorry.
No,
we're
that's
part
okay, you're
of
fine.
Tri-County Workforce, which is Gilpin,
Mhm.
Clear Creek and Jeffco.
Okay.
But getting our people, and I'm sure it's for Gilpin too, getting our people down to Jeffco to the
Yeah.
workforce center.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Yeah.
So that's
Okay.
just one of our challenges,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sure you guys are the same. It's hard for people to get around. You guys are growing way up at like Rollinsville and everything, and
There's
that's a
just not
long
that public
way.
transportation. to
Yeah.
help with getting people there and.
Yeah.
You got it.
So they just don't.
Okay.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, this might sound dumb, but the in-home training and stuff, I think would be really beneficial. I just think of my grandpa who
Yeah.
he doesn't move around very well.
Yep.
And he calls us 3 times a week because his smart TV and like you
Yeah.
literally cannot buy a TV these days that is not a smart TV.
Mhm.
And these people grew up or had TVs in the 50s, 60s that you had one button and that's what you did.
Mine
And
used to be the remote.
exactly.
me too.
Exactly.
I'm with
And
you.
this is kind of, he lives in Michigan, so we
Yes.
try to communicate with him that way. But like, I just think of people like him, like I've communicated with people who have these type of issues here and how are they supposed to do something like that?
Exactly.
So
Okay.
he barely even understands his phone and we're trying to figure out how to navigate him to the smart TV cable thing. And
Right.
it's like,
And he's like.
what is
doesn't
happening?
know. Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yep.
So I think
Okay.
that would be really beneficial.
Okay. But I took note.
Get
Thank you.
ready, because once you do, they get really snobby.
Oh, yeah.
Like my mom's like, what do you mean you don't have a smart TV?
Oh my God.
I'm like, who are you?
I know. And then he's like, there's hearing aids and I'm like,
I know.
press this button. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's
Yeah.
such a mess.
And real quick,
Heard.
John Payne, town
Hi,
manager
John.
of Netherland.
Hello. Nice
So-
to see you, John.
Nice to see you as well.
And he was with Idaho Springs for how many years?
Like 7.
Ah, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's familiar with our whole region.
Yeah, sorry I'm running late.
No,
That's all right.
Okay, thank you
But-
for being here.
no worries.
But
I think, I think I only have like 2 more slides. So, computers is another thing. We know people need computers. And so we're working on different ways to get more computer donations and to refurbish more to higher standards. So right now, PCs for People is the main refurbisher in the state. They're in Denver. Lots of people in other places also need computers.
use them to e-cycle.
Perfect.
Nice.
We
Okay.
give them
Perfect.
like a Connex of stuff
Perfect.
every
Awesome.
year. So-
That's so great.
Mhm.
We also, so just recently, and we're gonna present, this is very exciting, on September 12th at the Federal Reserve. It's PCs for People. Blue Star Recyclers, they only hire people with developmental disabilities and specifically like neurodivergent folks. And myself, we put in an application to go to this investment connection, and basically it's just like telling financial institutions who have to spend 1% of their profits on communities. That's legislated by the federal government. So we are asking them to support us. And we will try in whatever way we can, like I said, to just get more computers available for people. So that is, this next year is the planning period. And hopefully those future tranches are available or some other funding so that we can expand our refurbishing capability for the entire state.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah,
Cool.
that's in our plans. The other two slides that you see here, you can just know that they're here. We've already talked about this stuff. I just wanted, if the slides get sent out, for people to have it. We want people to start thinking about what it looks like to partner. So if you're gonna apply for funding, it would be great if a couple of counties could work together to form a coalition or, whatever the case may be. I'm happy to meet with groups of people who are interested as well. And that's really it. The final slide just has my contact information. My colleague Ashley, the Office of E-Health Innovation has been our very close partner in this. The two of us wrote the digital access plan. And then that link, if you do have the slides, will take you to a form to fill out organizational, ISP, government information. You may have already done this. But what we're doing with that is putting it in some software that will make it easier for people to connect with one another.
Okay.
So
Is,
that's,
like our group that we have right now, our P2P, I can't even remember the whole thing, but,
Yes, like peaks to-
Gilpin,
yeah.
Netherland, Clear Creek.
yep.
I mean, we could fill that form out as our team that we already are, and
I think it would be
Is that too
more
big?
for applying for the funding.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
okay.
not too big. For the,
For a
for
coalition?
application.
or
Mm-mm.
for an application.
Nope, or a coalition. Not too big. If like we've heard from, for example, Boulder County, there's some pretty not remote, I want to say like underserved.
Yep.
Or completely unserved folks in Boulder County. And so instead of working with the rest of Boulder County, those organizations tend to work with Broomfield County.
Mhm.
And so we're like, if you two want to apply together, that's fine. And if the rest of Boulder wants to apply with Denver, that's also fine.
So that would be my question. So if Boulder County, because Netherland is in Boulder
Yep.
County,
Yep.
so I'm
We
guessing
have
they
it
would
broken
already.
down by county
Okay,
as well as by region.
okay.
So it doesn't have to be, yeah. We thought of this because so many people told us like, we are not similar, like,
Yeah.
and so we wanted to leave flexibility for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So the formulas are still in progress, but they should be going out hopefully pretty soon.
Okay,
We'll do the RFA for the fiscal sponsors first, just FYI, and then the fiscal sponsors will help us connect with the coalitions. We're also hiring 2 positions right now, and those people are also specifically to support communities in figuring out what their coalitions look like, what writing a digital access plan looks like, et cetera. So
so you're looking for fiscal sponsors, like companies who want to support a community in the broadband expansion effort?
not in broadband, but in specifically the device access, digital skills, whatever. Yeah, so this is gonna be, fiscal sponsors could be like your United Way. We want people who have been in the area though, we prefer. We don't really want people from outside the area
I'm
unless we have
thinking-
to.
This is
Do you
where
have
my,
ideas?
this is where my brain's going.
Yeah,
honestly.
please.
I'm thinking about your casino districts
Mhm.
and I'm thinking about Henderson Mine.
Yeah.
And as just big users of computer systems or, I mean, I don't know how many of them are already using people for PCs like we are, but
Yeah,
I just,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you think of anybody, let us know. We also have a gigantic list of fiscal sponsors. There's like an organization called Trailhead who's provided the 501c3 for lots of little nonprofits or United Way or CSU extension offices. I mean, anybody who can be like, oh, this money's coming. We're gonna manage it for you. You guys decide how you want to spend the money and then we'll give it to whoever you say. And they'll do the reporting on the grants and all that, because that's what we kept hearing, especially in rural areas, is like, we can never apply for these.
Right.
Because we don't have capacity. So that's what we're looking for, is that piece that can be that capacity.
Alyssa, I'm thinking your casinos are that they're in special districts, right?
Yeah, and then we have a CSU extension office as well.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and if you want to start asking them if they're comfortable, like, we'll let everyone know about the application that we've connected with. And we're happy to put whoever on the list too, to get that application when it's ready.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's all I've got on that. And then please follow up, let's get together.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
I just wrote down. I don't know what the American Community Survey said, and I don't know what Gilpin's numbers are, but I think we're like 9% vets. in
Okay.
Clear Creek.
Yep.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
have a very overworked veteran service officer.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I don't know if that helps us in our eligibility or
Yep.
competitiveness.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I was gonna ask if there was a survey for Gilpin on that.
I mean, this is census data from 2022 when they did American Communities, so I don't know what percentage of the population they get, but let me just see here. Gilpin is, and where's veterans? Yeah, I think we have, it looks like 12% of the population. That's high. I'm from Colorado Springs and I know that's the highest just because there
Yeah.
are so many
yeah,
cases there.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's pretty significant. So,
Yep.
yep.
That is a big deal.
And when coalitions happen, you know, we want people, overworked veterans, or to have a voice in those coalitions as well.
Mhm.
Whatever that looks like. Obviously, we know someone who's in a tiny office who does everything isn't gonna have a lot of capacity. So that's the idea behind these, is that, you know, even if it's like, hey, once a month, let us know how
Mhm.
things are going over there. Do you need for this or that?
Did you see my office? Is that what you said? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Moving shelves to get to other things.
Maybe.
So,
So,
all right, one more question. The money coming through the DEI tranches? is that
yeah,
right?
yeah. I know it's a weird word,
I
right?
know, that's okay. So CBO is gonna administer and manage that whole grant process, and we would apply through y'all for that funding?
It's actually, so our planning funds went through OIT and the broadband office. This funding is going through the Department of Labor and Employment.
Oh,
So
okay.
we are the lead on this.
Okay.
And all the communications will come from us, which is weird because it is not strictly workforce focused. We just have the most passion.
Right.
For this particular topic. So that's where it is.
Okay,
But we'll be working with broadband office super closely. So,
okay,
even though they're separate, like we're still together.
yes,
We're a team. So,
awesome.
yeah.
All right, I lied. One more. I'm sitting on the broadband workforce group.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Michael Murphy
Yep.
and everybody. And you know, that's been a massive effort. You know, the one thing Jonas eloquently states is that, you know, we're about to bring $850 million into this state. And how do we put it on the ground when we don't have that workforce?
Yep.
And we don't have people that are trained? And how do we get people to know about it? Well, first of all, what's the curriculum? What does the industry need? Like sometimes I get these flyers from different companies and they say, hey, we'll teach you how to splice fiber, you know? And so I send it out to our broadband group and I'm like, is this important? And like David from Mavericks will go, that's who I need to hire right now. And so this big group, which is CDLE and the workforce centers and CBO and
Yep.
OIT and
Yep.
a bunch of us from across the state every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. Zoom in together and talk about what's that curriculum? Oh, CSU is there.
Yep.
What's the curriculum? Who's going to teach it? How soon can they teach it?
Yep.
How fast can we get these people trained?
Yep.
Is it for anybody? You know, and like when I talk with my workforce people, you know, they got a pile of cash, but it's eligibility
Yeah.
limited.
Yeah.
That's disabled, low income, single mom, whatever.
Yep.
They're like, yes, if you have any students that go into these classes that fit these criteria, we'll pay.
Yep.
But what about here's my kicker. We probably have 300 or 400 kids that go to work at Loveland and Echo Ski Area every winter. And every spring they're out here.
Yep.
They are our lowest population in our county. How do
Yep.
we keep them here?
Mhm.
Because if I can teach them a skill to keep them here year round, that's a bonus for us. And I always, Megan's gonna like kick me under the table because I say this all the time, but young families and young people bring vitality and contribution. And if that's our smallest population, we're hurt, you know, and we need to figure out a way to keep them here.
Yeah.
And so if I've got them trapped at Loveland or Echo for 6 months and I go see them and go, hey, want to splice fiber? You know, but I need to get, again, those classes in our communities. Because they can't drive to Denver. Most of them don't even have a car, you know?
Right.
And so we're working on this workforce thing, and I'm guessing you're connected or talking to
I
those
think
people.
my director is in the
Okay.
group, Catherine
Yeah,
Keegan.
well,
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
she's there, she's
Yeah.
great.
And
Yeah.
the other part of the presentation, we'll talk a little bit more about workforce.
Okay,
And, you know, we'll show some numbers and
yeah,
efforts. I mean, Michael is the subject matter expert, him and Delia, they're not here today. And so I'll try to stumble through it as much as I can, but since you sit on the committee, you'll present it.
well, I'll tell you, you know, I told you, I gotta dumb it down sometime for myself, so. I will contribute whatever I've heard, but,
Yep.
I think that's an awesome idea.
I do too.
To do that technical
I do too.
expedited training to
Yep.
get those boots on the ground.
Yep.
That's critical.
And you're not the first like community that I've heard say our young people just go.
Yep.
And it's really disappointing. And I
Mhm.
think, you know, the refurbishing and the like even an A+ license for somebody who's going into computer science. Anytime we have an opportunity to think about that, that's
Mhm.
another possibility. So yeah, our heads have been kind of
spinning.
spinning on that.
Sure.
So where do they go after the season? Do they go work part-time in Denver and then come back?
Some of them go home, some of them, I think, I don't know, Alyssa or.
Usually where there's
Melanie.
transportation, because like she
Yeah.
said, and
They don't drive.
and where it's affordable to live.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So when you're talking the mountain homes, that
Yes.
becomes a little out of their reach
Yeah.
for the jobs that they're doing, seasonal jobs.
Mhm.
And so they're gonna go, down to Denver where there's that transportation,
Mhm.
more of the mass housing so that they can afford
Yeah,
the area they're
we
living.
also have the Georgetown Loop, as you heard a minute ago. A couple hundred employees. We have a lot of families living in motels while they work for the railroad during the season.
Okay.
350,000 people ride that train every year. It's a long season. It's a lot of workforce that's here that we could keep year round.
Yeah.
Rafting, we are the second largest rafted river in the state of Colorado behind the Arkansas.
Wow.
I know, it blew my mind. that we-
I wrapped it on a regular basis.
Yeah, it blew my mind that we were ahead of Colorado River. Well, our proximity to Metro Denver makes it so.
Yeah.
It's a day trip for
Yeah.
people. So, I think they have, I'm trying to remember the figures, like 150 to 200,000 rafters a
That's
year.
nuts.
Wow.
So, you know, and those are also seasonal kids that come in for, I say home kids, but
Yeah.
some of them are maybe my age. Pretty sure I could have birthed most of them. But but they, you know, I think they are looking for that home base.
Yeah.
Some of them, I mean, some of them like the nomadic lifestyle,
Yeah.
but I think if we could give them the training
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
put them to work on these projects and
When it gives them a career beyond.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
like
that's
that's,
their
Right.
focus,
yeah,
yeah.
like that's fun for a little bit, but eventually they're like,
Yeah.
okay, I need a career. You know, I
Yes.
need and some, that could turn into it for some of them, but yeah, I think that's a.
I mean, most people, I also worked in Alaska seasonally on the railroad.
Oh, I worked in there, but on the boat, so. Yeah, I'm with you,
I'm
girl.
like, you know,
Yeah.
I maybe stayed at that bit too many years, but.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it was
I get what
fun
you're
for a
saying.
while. Then I got tired
Can I
of
chime
living
in?
stores. So,
Someone's-
Yes, go ahead.
Steph.
Did you guys hear?
Can I
me?
ask you a quick question?
Sorry,
Apologies.
I
for
just
being
wanted
late.
to chime in with the like livability here, especially because I have a 9-month-old. So like you guys were saying, the cost of living, the lack of childcare, during COVID, getting these kids hotspots was a huge deal just so they could attend school. So it's a much larger picture, unfortunately. And I mean, I'm faced with it. I work for the county. I love my job. I love this area, but having such a lack of internet or affordable internet, it reaches really far.
Mm.
So, I mean, in the next coming years, I might even have to consider moving depending on where education goes and who knows. So I'm really trying for this broadband thing.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Steph.
Another kind of back to what you guys were saying, we've got Mountain Youth Network and they do a lot of stuff like that. Like, they just started this program where people can get certifications for like rafting, avalanche stuff and like all that kind of fun stuff. So like what they're doing is maybe you don't want to go to college, maybe you want to do this instead. So that's another way to keep kids that are from here. So I think that would be maybe, hey, if you guys aren't interested in the outdoor industry, maybe we can look at fiber and stuff like that. So that could be another good thing, because
Yeah.
Mountain View Network, that's through the county. We work with the schools a lot with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Rebecca,
Yeah,
yeah.
I apologize for being late. I was at the county commissioner municipalities meeting. Do you guys work with Clear Creek Broadband at all? Is this a collaborative effort with them, or are they kind of separate? Oh, hi. Hi.
This is great.
Everyone's like. Thank you for mentioning us. I would say in some ways, if you want to add to that.
Oh, as I grab a milk toast, do we work with them or do they work with them? Both?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as the Colorado Broadband Office, we work with everybody that is a internet service provider. I mean, we need everybody. We need all the internet service providers to, this is a big undertaking and a big effort. So anybody that has any involvement in broadband, fiber, infrastructure, bandwidth, yes, we work with, we collaborate, we welcome the partnership and any insight that we could get from the areas. And this is what we do. I mean, if there's an internet service provider in an area that we're not familiar with, when we do these road shows, it's part of our community engagement. We get to know them. We get to know, what their challenges are, what they need, and how we could better serve an area, which is a good segue to get into the next part of the presentation. If you want to go to slide 1 or 2, too.
Back to this.
Do you have the Region 3 presentation? That some of the slides are tailored. I don't know who's running them.
Yeah.
Megan is.
They are. Okay, I thought we used.
I
this old
updated-
one.
I updated mine after Sanford sent.
Oh, got it.
so that's my
Okay.
fault.
All right.
So digital equity and
Just that one slide.
the Colorado Broadband Office, what we do, kind of, but it's an extension of each other. You can't have access to broadband if you don't know how to use it, or if you don't know how to connect your computer, or your laptop to it, or you don't know how to navigate the internet in general. So the digital equity is kind of like, enabling the vehicle, and we're building the highways. So we work together. You need the highway and you need the vehicle.
Thank you.
I want to start out by, letting people know who we are. Who's the Colorado Broadband, TBO, the Colorado Broadband Office. We are the arm of the Governor's Office of Information of Technology. We're focusing on ensuring that Colorado has robust and scalable broadband network by leveraging funding opportunities, collaborating with our community and industry stakeholders, and promoting the partnerships needed to bridge the digital divide. Having said that, we have a goal to reach. Without a goal, we kind of will wander aimlessly. So our goal and our North Star is to serve pretty much 99% of Colorado locations with broadband, reliable broadband service. Currently, as this slide shows, we are at 93.3% served across the state of Colorado. We have 4.2 that are underserved, and the term underserved means that they have internet access, but it's slow, or it's under the minimum required by the NTIA, which is 100 megabits of upload speeds and 20 down. If you have anything under that, you're considered underserved, and you are eligible for funding. And 2.6% of locations in Colorado are underserved, meaning they don't have access to any internet at all. So we have about 6.7% of Colorado locations that we have to make sure that broadband reaches out to them. And this is a really, really big undertaking. It's a big goal. It is our North Star, and we're doing everything we could do to reach that goal. And we're gonna talk a little bit about the programs and how we're doing it. And this next slide, if you want to go to the next slide, the Colorado Broadband Office is working in many areas and many aspects on many fronts to actually accomplish that goal. The areas that we're focusing on, first of all, is community engagement. We reach out to the communities, we make ourselves familiar with the community, whether it's what their needs are, the population, the terrain. Terrain across Colorado changes from area to area. Some people are challenged with the mountains and the geography and then the rocks, and some areas are not. So we make ourselves familiar with that. And the geography makes a big difference in extending broadband. Cost is different. The labor requirements are different. So we make ourselves familiar with that part of the state. And also, we like to engage with our communities just to understand what they need and where the gaps are. And we collect information or data because we need that data and we need to process that data in order for us to be able to analyze the data and put it in a format to where we can work with and see what the areas that we need to focus on for each county, community, or area. Which leads us to, what do we do with the data that we collect? We can stay on the
Sorry.
same slide. It's okay.
Thought you were done with that.
Your trigger. Which leads us to our talking a little bit about our mapping department. And I'll talk a little bit more also about our mapping department, because our mapping department is the area where all this data gets converted into data that we can understand, or also enables the internet service providers in the state of Colorado of understanding where the need is and how to achieve that, those goals. So data is very, very important to us, and our mapping department does a great job of converting the data that is collected into, GIS formats and what have you. The next thing, in order to also reach our goal, we reach out to communities, we collect data, we format that data, but without money, you really can't do anything. So funding is a big part. When we first started about 2 years ago, and we were doing a lot of surveys and collecting data to see what is it gonna take to actually accomplish this, we did some sites, we did some surveys, and we solicited a lot of information, and it was clear to us that in order to accomplish this goal and reach everybody in Colorado, we needed $2 billion. So even though it's 6% left, we were, overwhelmed by the amount of funds that is needed to do that. Well, we currently have a little bit between CPF and BDB and some projects that we'll talk about. We're a little bit over $1 billion in funding. So as you can imagine, we have to work very, very diligently to make sure that, we get the most for our dollar and make sure that every dollar that is spent is going towards achieving that goal. And then we got the broadband readiness part. We reach out to communities. We make sure that they know what is needed in their community to take in an infrastructure project. Of construction, or what is it needed from actually the local governments in that community. And some of these communities don't know what they don't know. So by, collaborating with them, we get a picture and we help them out through our small local programs that we'll talk about a little bit more during the slide. But this is the cycle that we do. We reach out to communities, we collect data, we manipulate that data, and depending on what type of data is, we put it in the format that is needed. We secure the funding and we make sure that communities are ready. And it's just an ongoing cycle that we go through.
I saw that readiness as a chance to sort of market our community and really, because when I thought about it and looked at it, I'm like, do we even have a broadband webpage, on our county website? And I was like, oh man, we need to get to work. And so worked on dressing up the website because I thought, we want to be attractive to ISPs.
Yep.
I had done the cold calling thing and had too many of them tell me you have no economy of scale. So I was like, oh, thanks, So I was like, we've got to get our information out there. What formal planning reports have we done? What does the terrain look like? Who is already here? And who's unserved? And so we kind of dressed up our website a little bit because of that broadband readiness piece that kind of told us, oh, this is what's missing and we need to be, a trophy bride.
And I'll talk a little bit more about the broadband readiness program and how the idea came about and what are the benefits of the project. And you guys in this region did a great job with it. And we are using the broadband readiness to advertise or to kind of attract ISPs to come that area. And I'll explain a little bit more because we also reach out to communities, but we also, collaborate with all stakeholders that are involved in broadband. We have our industry roundtable. It's a bi-monthly meeting. So we get a lot of feedback, comments, questions from internet service providers. So we kind of know what's on their mind, what the triggers that they want to see. So we talk about that as well. Now, we could go to the next slide. We'll talk a little bit about our community engagement, since it's a big thing, a big part of what we do. In 2023, we hosted over 200 meetings with representatives from all 14 regions in the state of Colorado, including our 2023 Roadshow, which is similar to what we're doing now. We also held tribal constellations with the Southern Ute Indian tribe and the Ute Mountain Ute tribe, and we discussed their broadband needs and how to best work together. A lot of the tribes, they work sometimes in their own areas in a vacuum. So we did not want, certain opportunities to be overlooked. So we kind of met with them, communicated with them, understood what their needs are and what they're doing in their areas and how, and we looked at the needs around their areas and see how we could best collaborate and kind of fill that gap in. And that what turned out to be very, very beneficial because it turns out that, they wanted middle mile connections in some areas that they couldn't reach. So we kind of made some connections there and helped them out. And they've also were recipients of some grant money. And also in April of 2023, as I spoke about earlier, we hosted our broadband summit where we had over 450 people meet up, and there was a big broadband effort across the state. We had pretty much a lot of stakeholders were there, and it made the broadband grants pretty much known to everybody. They got familiar with the programs. They know what we're doing. They know what was upcoming. And we got to meet a lot of the stakeholders, exchanged business cards, talked about their needs. They know who to call when there's an issue. We know who's in what area. So it was a really, really good summit.
Was that the one in Westminster?
Yes.
Yeah, you guys had the AG there.
Yeah.
And he was putting a crack down on the cheaters.
That's part of what we do. It's that keep them honest.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah, he's a really good speaker.
And 2024 just brings more of the same. More engagement, more collecting data. The data is changing all the time. There are locations that 6 months ago were not served that now they are served. Areas that things have changed in certain area, or there's new middle mile infrastructure in that area that we can leverage. So we're also always collecting that data and putting it in formats and making it available to pretty much all of our stakeholders. Our mapping department, which I always like to talk about and brag about them because they are really, really
amazing.
They are the backbone of what we do. Without the data, and not just any data, but good data put in formats that everybody that can use and understand and leverage is really the key to getting a lot of these projects off of the ground. And it's also information for all stakeholders, mostly internet service providers. They want to know what areas are in need, what areas do they need to connect, and what areas are already connected, and what areas are adjacent to what areas, and how they can leverage existing infrastructure and how new infrastructure can connect there. So having all that data in a map, it's really amazing, and they've been doing a good job. In 2023, we launched the Broadband Mapping Hub, which offers various resources that aid stakeholders in planning for broadband projects and finding partnerships and applying for broadband funding throughout the state. A lot of the internet service providers would like to have a target in front of them. So this mapping kind of provides that to them. They can look at this area is eligible for funding, and it's really up, my alley or in my backyard. I'm going to go ahead and apply for that. So it really is a good effort that they do. And I just wanted to mention that our mapping department is doing a great job and continues to do. Also, part of their efforts is fixing data and making sure that the data is accurate. Inaccurate data doesn't really help. So in 2023, our mapping department has submitted and challenged 15,000 locations on the Federal Communications commissions, and they won that. So we got 15,000 locations changed their status from whether they were listed as ineligible for funding. Now they are. So that was a big win for us in 2023.
Could they do a little influencing on the FCC?
I don't know about influencing, but
Show them how to do it right.
they do collaborate with the FCC on regular basis. They do exchange information. The FCC takes a lot of input from the mapping department. Good. And that's part of the challenges. They challenges, comments, all of that stuff is they work very closely with the FCC. At the end of the day, everybody wants accurate and correct information, regardless of what the entity is. So that's pretty much what they do. And in 2024, they just continue on collecting accurate data and information about broadband availability and identifying the gaps, and putting it on a map pretty much helps. Some of our areas are you got a mountain in between them. So fiber doesn't really work good in infrastructure building over a mountain. So looking about who has wireless, fixed wireless in some areas, how we can do hybrid solutions, what areas we could use, where our existing infrastructure, and leveraging any infrastructure in the area. CDOT, for example, we're working very closely with CDOT and mapping them and integrating their fiber. So we know, how we do. And the upcoming BEAD data is going to be very, very critical to the upcoming BEAD project. Since we talked about our community engagement, we talked about our mapping, which is our data, talk about a little bit about our funding. In 2023, the big news, of course, was the historic $826.5 million received from the NTIA for the BEAD program. The CBO is more than BEAD. Even though BEAD is our biggest pool of money, we are more than BEAD. So let's start looking about a little bit of an overview of our funding programs and the money granted in 2023. Advanced Colorado Broadband is a grant program to deploy CPF and BEAD. The Broadband Deployment Board and Fund is a state program which historically has provided grants to deploy last mile broadband services in unserved areas of the state. The CBO also created and launched the Technical Assistance Program in the spring of 2023, which we'll talk about a little bit in down the road on this slide, and how that program really helped a lot of communities in applying for these grants. The program allocated CPF and BEAD funds to support many unserved and underserved communities that are eligible for federal funding and may not have resources to plan or prepare or apply and administrate a federal grant. We selected multiple vendors to work on this program to help our communities. And I'll talk about how that selection was and how we funded that a little bit further in the presentation. But to talk about our funding in general, the Advanced Colorado Broadband throughout our CPF program has assigned or allocated $113.5 million that went to serve 18,000 locations in the state of Colorado. So every location that we get a commitment to serve or bring broadband infrastructure to is one location closer to our goal.
Did we get some of that money?
Gilpin did, and we'll talk about this region a little bit down the road, but yeah, Gilpin did.
There's the map of where it went.
And this is the same map we used as like tier 1, tier 2 counties, right?
That's the same map, but this one has different data. This is showing, the dots are showing where those projects that were awarded.
And so the tier 1 counties had a 50% grant match and tier 2 had a 25% grant match?
That is correct.
This is one of my questions. I'm not sure how Clear Creek got put in the 50% grant match because we're so poor. So I'm like, how did we get put with the big metro counties on that one? Because Gilpin is tier 2. But we got,
Us and Summit and Jeffco,
I mean, those people are. got piles of cash on them.
they're loaded. in some-
How does that get so?
I mean, even, and it's not just about the tiers and the counties, it's also about the incumbent internet service providers are in some areas or the lack of, to say. So some of the internet service providers can request a waiver, and we talked about that during the CPF round. And a lot of them did. And some of them got granted. So even though might not, why do we have to provide a 50% match? There were waivers that if the ISP showed that, they can't provide that, and even without having such a large match, they can apply for a lower match or even a waiver of it. If their project makes sense, it was funded regardless of the match. If you could go to the slide before this, please. Yep. I just want to give the rest of the programs some attention. The Broadband Deployment Fund, which is known as the BDB, during that project, CPO awarded $22 million from the state and local, the local, the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, the SLFRF, to 12 projects, also connected 5,605 locations in the state of Colorado, and nearly $14 million from the High Cost Support Mechanism Fund was awarded to 12 projects connecting 1,647 locations. And the Technical Assistance Program also awarded $315,000 that was given to 7 local governments.
Next slide.
Next slide, which we already talked about.
Is that Tech Assistance Program, is that how we got partnered with
Yes.
NEO?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Cool.
And I'll talk about that when we get to that part as
Okay.
well.
All right.
Next slide, BEAD. Here we're gonna talk about BEAD because the BEAD is the next upcoming project. The opening window for grant is going to be end of August, beginning of September. We don't have a set date yet. It's an ongoing progress right now. We're working on creating and making sure that the portal that the applicants can apply through is So also we're doing a lot of software testing and making sure that all the policies and the guidelines are incorporated in the application.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'm sure my internet just went out.
So if I miss anything or if you want to point out, please feel free.
Yep. Happy to help.
So Colorado has a goal of universal broadband, and because of the historic broadband equity, access, and development, which is BEAD investment, we are on our way towards achieving that goal. BEAD is part of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the IIJA, signed in November 2021. Colorado will use BEAD funding to make the historic investment in the state's broadband infrastructure and programs. And also BEAD will help us achieve the governor's goal of 99% of households in the state of Colorado. So, as a result of COVID, a lot of things were just came out, the need for broadband, seeing the kids in front of these schools trying to connect to the Wi-Fi because they don't have internet at their homes, having the elderly not able to go and get health care. So the need of them knowing how to, do the telehealth thing. And that's where digital equity comes in, showing them how to use and how to be on camera and how to talk to their health providers. Work from home was also a big thing. Knowing that a lot of people don't have the sufficient internet or bandwidth at their homes to do and get on Zoom meetings and Teams and Google Meets and all this. So the need is there, and the need really presented itself during COVID. So in response to that, all these programs are, big investment into achieving that, this doesn't happen anymore. Or, at this day and age, we're in 2024 and we still have locations that don't have access to broadband. Broadband is becoming a utility just as important as water, electricity, gas, and everything else.
And is part of that also going to be addressing like the redundancy? Or is it just the 99%, like you at least have it, period?
So when it comes to redundancy, any new infrastructure that we are funding or approving for a grant, we are looking for that. So we're looking for redundancy, internet service providers that are, presenting a network infrastructure or topology that shows resiliency and redundancy and, like creating self-healing fiber rings and what have you is definitely a plus. But, as Beth knows, there are some areas that do have internet right now, but don't have the backup or we're not funding those because our focus right now is to bring broadband to areas that do not have. And as we're doing that, resiliency, backup, and protection is a big part of how we analyze the applications, how we look at them. I'll give you an example. One area that we have, and we have 2 internet service providers that are applying for it. Pretty much same cost or close cost per location, same network technology, same area and everything, but one of them is offering the protection, one of them is not. Who do you think is going to win? The one that is. So that's how we're addressing these and how we're putting some emphasis on the protection and resiliency on these networks.
Was that an oversight, do you think, in the NTIA or the FCC to not require resiliency and redundancy in their grant cycles? And maybe just do what you guys are focusing on and just get the service to a location?
I don't really want to say that it was an oversight, but you gotta also stretch your dollar as much as you can.
Absolutely.
And then most times when you're building network infrastructure, the cost of redundancy is massive. So you got your cost per passing per location, and that's established, and that's might be reasonable or a little bit high. I mean, to be honest, most of these areas are not served. Why? Because they don't offer a good return on investment to internet service providers.
Right.
So you got density is a big thing. So you get into the rural areas or the mountain areas that are very challenging, especially financially. So, if there's not a return on investment for an ISP, they're probably just gonna look the other way and.
Yeah.
So this is what we're doing. We're dangling the carrot in front of these ISPs and providing the funding and say, hey, go ahead and serve these. So this was not part of CBO in the old programs that were ran, but to really say that it was an oversight, no, these are all, smart people. They know the importance of redundancy and all that. But I think it was more about the cost. Redundancy and protection normally comes at a high cost because, you're looking at diverse routes, you're looking at new builds. And if there's not existing infrastructure that you can leverage to do so, the cost just becomes very high. And this is what we're trying to address with this round, with the CPF and with BEAD. We're looking at projects that do have the redundancy and the protection and the secondary routes to use and how we could leverage existing infrastructure to do so. But go ahead.
I would just add from an operational perspective, we're kind of self-incentivized to have redundancy because we don't want unhappy customers. We don't want a ton of service calls. We don't want to be, going up in the 3 feet of snow trying to fix something. So if we can make it happen up front, then we do.
Yeah.
Because you guys got your SLAs and most, especially depending on the terrain and the area. So when you get a fiber cut in some areas, sometimes it takes 3 to 4 days to fix it. Different than like down in metro areas where you got a 4-hour window and boom, you got splicers out there and within 4 hours you're fixing. And also pretty much most of the metro areas do have redundancy just due to they're fiber rich and there's always routes to do that. So the ISP themselves is also, wanting to provide their own. So as you're engineering a network, you're looking for that. How can I reach? How can I make sure that this is redundant and not just by the fiber infrastructure, but also by the equipment, making sure you have redundant cards and backup servers and automatic switching and all that good stuff. And at the CBO, we have people that come from various backgrounds. We got people that come from the private industry. We got people that worked in outside plant, inside plant. We got people that been network engineers and wireless people that worked on the railroad. So when infrastructure is evaluated, you got a lot of smart people looking at it and make sure that they are selecting and granting the best solution for that area. Do some areas
them from not having that infrastructure in place already, though, is that restricting some of our rural areas, not being seen as someone that they even want to go in and put their redundancy in products in because we just don't have the infrastructure already. I mean, 3 to 4 days, that's a lot for a rural area for our businesses and like you said, students, teachers, all of that. That's a lot of time to be out.
Absolutely.
And when that fiber is providing so many networks for that community, it's not just, oh, okay, bummer, this one thing isn't working. It's everything now in the county isn't working.
I totally understand.
And I want to add on to that. I'm not a super smart person. I'm digesting this
Give yourself
as fast as I can. But I can tell you just from the average person sitting in a rural community living off a major US highway that sees 45,000 cars a day, that I know it's expensive to put in redundancy, but I feel like human life and human safety is expensive. And when we lose 911 center 3 times in 5 weeks, and then 2 more times that summer for hours on end, that's not good. And I appreciate the brilliance and intelligence behind the people doing this, but I feel like it's almost an obligation of these big incumbents to CYA themselves, I mean, somebody on that team has got to be thinking about public safety. Please tell me somebody's.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
And the fact that, because what happens to us up here is the lines get cut in Denver, they take however many hours to fix it. So we lose all internet capacity all of our telecom towers are backhauled on the incumbents and the I-70 right away to Denver, so we lose cellular technology. We lose 911. At the time, we defaulted to Gilpin. They lost 911. So then we default, I guess, to Jeffco. I don't know. But, those were 3 days in 5 weeks in 2023, and then 2 more times over the summer of 2023.
You just had one recently too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. And
Yeah.
this is not on you. I realize
No,
this. It's, I just, I think, and I brought this up to the AG at the summit last year, and he was like, unacceptable, follow up with me and Judd and, and I did. And, you can only take it so far. It's all, who's got the cash to pay for it. And, but I just hope that the redundancy and resiliency is considered in the upcoming round.
That's
It is-
I think
it-
what
it
we're
is
really
considered.
looking at because of how, yes, I get it's, 10,000 or 6,000 residents, but because of the mass amount of visitors that we have visiting our counties with our national forest, our parks, our
Off the highway.
Yeah.
ski slopes, our highway, exactly. They are the thorough way for more mountain adventures. On top of just the people that do end up staying in our counties
Mhm.
that are visiting, that I think we need to not just look at what is our population and our residential
Mhm.
population, but what are the impacts of the public safety
Right.
by everyone?
Can I ask you guys a question? If,
Mhm.
you're gonna submit for CP, or if you did for CPF, and you're partnering with an ISP to
Mhm.
do that, are you making those plans to say, hey, resiliency in this area is really, really important, and
That's
Again, like-
our main focus is the
Yeah.
resiliency and,
use
I
example.
mean, obviously we
Yeah.
have weather and then even just response
Yeah.
times. Because where are usually the technicians coming from? The Denver metro
Yeah.
area with those cards, to
Yeah.
go and put in. So having that redundancy of, I mean, I've had it where I have a tech that lives in the Gilpin, Netherland, Idaho Springs area for one of our providers, but they didn't have the actual card. So they have to go all the way to Denver to get the card to bring back
Yeah.
up to the central
no.
office in Idaho
Oh.
Springs.
my,
So yeah, those type of things.
Yeah.
For that redundancy.
Yeah.
Here within, so that it's not such a long, and you're doing all of that in a snowstorm.
Yeah.
I'd say like to Ali's point, every beat application will be a case by case, we're looking at each project, and that's a great example of a really strong project.
Mhm.
I just don't know if we should lean into that if this project is not really embracing the redundancy and resiliency, if we should be, I don't want to mention it too much if that's gonna
Right.
hurt us.
I mean, I think the way we need to look at this and think about it is should not be discouraged to apply for an area for BEAD just because we're not gonna be able to get redundancy. Because the area does not have broadband to begin with. So let's get them broadband, even if it doesn't have redundancy or protection. But then later down the road, the ISP, the internet service provider that built this infrastructure has a less financial burden to actually establish. And there's other ways that we look at. There's fixed wireless solutions in some areas. There's microwave. There's all kinds of hybrid solutions that we could look at. But let's not say, oh, just because an area is not going to be able to get internet service that has the broadband, we want to overlook it. No, we want to establish service to every location that we possibly can. And then as we're looking and we're analyzing and we're assessing all of the BEAD applications, resiliency and redundancy is part of what we're looking for. We at the CBO and the people that are going to be assigned evaluating these applications are going to look at that. They're going to be able to look at the bigger picture. So you as an internet service provider might apply for an area and not plan for redundancy in that area because, for financial reasons or terrain or whatever the challenge is in that area. But us looking at the bigger picture, we might see an adjacent area that's building a network that hey, if you guys collaborate together, you might be able to provide redundancy for each other at a way, way lower cost. So we are looking at these and making these connections and kind of putting together these partnerships and helping people see. A lot of internet service providers, don't know what's going on in the next neighborhood or in the next, what's on the other side of this mountain. We do, because we look
Yeah.
at the big picture and we try to make the best of it. But again, not because you can't have redundancy, that means I don't want to establish service there. We want to establish service to every location that is possible. New to the next slide. This is our BEAD timeline. We'll just go over it really quickly. Our planning phase was April to June. We went through that. We did a lot of planning, collected a lot of data. We started working on our portal to get the applications ready. We submitted our plans to the NTIA, got that approved. Our second phase was July to August, which is we're in right now. We're in the pre-application take process. We're still working on incorporating all the guidelines and the policies into our portal, making sure that our portal is going to be user-friendly as much as we can. These are big, big grants, so maybe user-friendly is
Careful what you promise.
Yeah, but to the best that we can, because there's a lot of data that goes into and a lot of effort and that goes into these applications, and we do know that. So we're planning on having webinars and roundtables and office hours throughout the entire process to make sure that anybody that needs support, whether what is this document or how do I upload that, or is it okay if I do this, that all of these questions are answered and addressed, and everybody that has any intention of applying or supporting an area has the opportunity to do so. So any challenges, any obstacles that are in the way, we're removing. And and that's part of the technical assistance program that I'll talk about, that we realized in some areas that is very needed, and it actually helped quite a bit, and I'll give some examples. Our next phase for the BEAD is the actual application intake process, where the window is going to open up, let's just say in the beginning of September. Right now it's tentative, and it'll be open for 45 days. Applicants will have the time to apply for areas. During our next plan, we had the project area maps created. We call them PAMs. So it's going to be different than CPF. It's going to have designated areas, and these areas are going to be constructed or made out of census blocks. Not just one census block, but multiple census blocks, but a minimum of one, the size of them. And the public comment for these is open right now, so we're taking a lot of data and a lot of comments. And some internet service providers say, oh, maybe if you restructure this project area map to include this, or separate it, or make them a little, this depending on how they want to apply. We're taking that data in, and our mapping department is working on incorporating those comments.
Are you guys being open to that request? Do you think the CBO is flexible on allowing movable boundaries on project areas?
Yeah.
Okay.
We want to make sure that project areas are suitable for whoever's going to apply for that area.
Yeah.
So we look at them. I mean, I'm not going to guarantee you that we're going to take every comment into and implement it, but definitely every comment is going to be considered and taken under consideration. But also, again, CBO has the bigger picture. But if you're as an ISP saying, if you would make this project area look like this better suits this area, and we can apply for it and be comfortable building it. If you take this section out, and if we look at and take this section out and add it on to the adjacent project area, and it still gets covered, yes, we will do that. Because at the end of the day, all we want to do is make sure that internet service providers are able to apply and actually implement a good project. Don't want you to apply for a project and win it and not be able to do it. Or if a certain area just doesn't make sense for your bill, we need to know that. And we'll take all the comments in consideration and restructure those project area maps and make them, you know,
So I will say
Better.
the public comment period though ended yesterday. Were you guys able to submit?
I think Neo submitted for
Okay,
us.
okay.
I think she did.
Yeah,
Okay, I mean,
that was the one thing we talked about in our broadband meeting last week was being flexible. Those maps over there, y'all show the kind of project area map for Gilpin, Netherland and one for Clear Creek. If you want to zoom in it, you got to kind of look at it a minute, figure out where your towns are. So, but, that was one of the things that we talked about was a big concern was making the business case for the ISP.
Yeah.
And if we, how flexible you guys were gonna be to move a boundary a little, this or that,
That's,
just to help
yeah,
that.
that's the
number one thing
whole
we heard.
reason of the public, comment period is,
Okay.
is to take those comments in
That's awesome.
and take everybody's, all the stakeholders' input and
Yep.
take it into consideration. Look at the big picture and then restructure those project area maps based on those comments and then make them
That's awesome.
available for to apply for or for bid, let's
Yep.
just call it, you know, because there's gonna be multiple applicants for every area, so a lot of people are gonna be
Yeah.
bidding.
Cause that was one thing, I mean, you all know with our topography, you know, sometimes you have that one red dot way over there on the other side of the Continental Divide, and you're like, how do I? Yeah, I can't put that with Floyd Hill, you know, I gotta move it around, you know, and so that was the one thing we talked about last week at our meeting was, you know, hoping that y'all would be flexible, as you're saying you are, yay. Just to help the ISPs justify their investment, so.
so Beth, I will say this was the number one.
Oh,
thing
really?
People made comments to us on.
Wow.
How do I serve that one little red dot?
Yeah.
Or, you know, what am I supposed to do? Like, so if for some reason, you know, the project area doesn't change, we're past public comment and all that, even if you have those dots in your project area, still submit an application
Okay,
and explain, okay, you know, here's how much our project costs. This one location is gonna cost this much, which is gonna skew the whole cost of the whole.
Yeah.
project. Like, just be really detailed in that information.
okay.
Because again, we can look at that and say, okay, this makes great sense. If we can figure out another solution, these, you know,
Yep.
this one red dot.
Mhm.
And then we can work with you, the ISP, the, you know, adjacent areas, however. Again, like what Brandy Ryder, her message at the Mountain Connect conference last week was apply. Even if you are like, we can't afford this because of this one red dot.
Yep,
Apply and the state will, you know, take a look at it and we'll go from there. But
yeah.
don't let that keep you from applying.
This is something, oh, sorry, Rebecca. This is something we talked about in our meeting too, and you guys and Netherland has the same. 10,000 cars a month going up on Guanella Pass. One dot on the top by itself, you know, 10,000 cars going to Grayson Torrey's a month in the summer, one dot way up there by itself, you know, and you know, you guys, we got an answer back on that, in the bead volume, talked about state parks and US Forest Service trailheads and how to get those covered for that broadband coverage for especially public safety. So, we talked a little bit with Jamie and Sam about how many people you guys have going into the Golden Gate Canyon Park.
We've
or-
got the Golden Gate State Park
Yeah.
and then 2 national forests.
Yeah.
And Rollins Pass and yeah.
So- That was a big
Thanks, Kate.
concern for us. And I just want to let y'all know, we asked about it and it looks like the NTIA and CBO have looked into that and seen that as something to apply for, or at least include in coverage. So,
Right, and exactly to your point, does CDOT pay for any access along I-70? Or when people are driving along I-70, are they picking up the town?
Wi-Fi
Or
or,
broadband or, yeah, is that? I mean, to your point about, you know, you might have one red dot or it might be a census that says, oh, there's only 10,000 people here, but you know,
yeah,
in the summertime, you know, CDOT has had, you know, more than 100,000 people go
Right.
through the tunnels, July
Yeah.
4th.
Yeah.
I mean, CDOT in general is not an internet service provider. I mean, CDOT is in the transportation business.
so they don't have any repeaters along the highway or anything?
I
or-
mean, CDOT has their own infrastructure that enables their traffic signals
Right.
and all that, what they need. But they are a right-of-way provider and a dark fiber provider. So we are collaborating with CDOT on a regular basis.
Yeah.
We have a lot of meetings with them. We work with them and we know and we work on leveraging their right of way and their fiber to benefit and serve these projects. But CDOT by itself is not an internet service provider.
Oh, okay, so then my point is, and I think you guys have already discussed this, but you're not just looking at the census you were talking about earlier. You are factoring in the fact that I-70 runs through Clear Creek and.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I-70 and the areas that it serves and the existing infrastructure on it and the right of way and the conditions of the right of way. I mean, you got some areas here, there's really not much space in the right of way and the rock.
Yeah, you
The
should try
rock-
the toll lane.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And the, you know, the tunnel and the requirements of the tunnel, all of these factors come into play. I-70 is a great right away to build this infrastructure, but it's also very, very challenging
Mhm.
financially and you know, physically. It's
Yeah.
not easy to bore and drill through the
Bedrock
rock.
and granite.
So
I-70 has a lot of fiber and plastic underneath it, but it's, a lot of it's spoken for. It's like they have a proprietary or they have a committed interest to it or a future committed interest where it's not available for certain things. And I don't remember the exact specifics of how much they've got under there. It's a lot. We were trying to get into it. I think Project Thor tapped into some of that.
Project Thor is a big project that we're working with currently in conjunction with CDOT, also with the private industries. I mean, you guys got CenturyLink on I-70. There's also Zayo that has infrastructure on I-70. CDOT has infrastructure on I-70. It's just a matter of identifying it all, making it attractive for people to use that infrastructure. There's also empty conduit in some areas that could be used to pull additional cable. So all of this is being considered, and also wherever there's new infrastructure to be built in some areas, you know, we
And that's where I think I was going with the redundancy is, you know, that fiber exists and there already are a lot of things on it, but it doesn't help those one little red dots or
Right.
the national forest or the state parks that aren't on that main thoroughway that already has the fiber. So actually, like you said, the infrastructure, if we don't have that infrastructure already existing, are they going to be willing to put it out into these more rural areas off of where there already is some main infrastructure? Or you said something about microwave, we all have radio towers in our
Yeah.
counties. Can we throw on some extra microwaves to make those national forest areas covered?
Yeah, so we call these our alternative technologies or hybrid technologies that we're working with. So currently we're leveraging Project Thor and the infrastructure that Region 9 has with CDOT. We're looking at the state parks. We're currently working on some projects to enable some of the state parks to have internet service for themselves and for their people that visit the parks to have Wi-Fi that they can connect to, especially where cellular service is not available. And we are leveraging the CDOTs and the Project Thors and all that stuff. But also keep in mind that CPF is also going to bring in a lot of new infrastructure and a lot of new middle mile that can be used and leveraged in the future. And BEAD is also going to be a big one as well. So the current infrastructure that we have in Colorado is about to change and to change dramatically into the better. There's a lot of money and a lot of facilities and a lot of underground and a lot of aerial, a lot of hybrid solutions that's going to be established. So within the next 2 to 3 years, we're looking at, you know, big changes and a lot more infrastructure that can be leveraged for these locations. Where some locations where 2 years ago were not feasible and not financially don't make sense. In the next 2 years, there's going to be new fiber infrastructure nearby that those areas now are makes it more reasonable and less costly to do so. But again, we're using alternate technologies, we're looking at hybrid, so we're looking at fixed wireless. Fiber is king, number one, but no location gonna be overlooked or left behind because, costs a little bit more. We also have the high cost mechanism program that we're using and we could leverage to serve some of these locations. So all of this goes together. Continue on with the slide. Can go to the next slide. Our broadband deployment fund. It's a tiered approach where allocates funding to the last and middle mile infrastructure, digital equity, and the workforce development. We expands eligible entities. It is a very transparent process. So any information that you're looking for is going to be available via multiple resources. If you can't find it, you can reach out to us and we'll help you find the information. And we're also transitioning from a board structure to a grant review group for 2024.
Is this a different pot of money?
No,
The speed,
need is what?
is the speed?
No, it's
No.
different.
Different pot of,
Yeah.
available right now?
Did we-
They just closed the last
Closed it.
grant cycle. It's now sunset and it's moving into a different type of grant program.
Okay.
I don't know a date on when that will open yet, but no, it's not available.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll go to the next slide.
Ellie's like, oh my God, I hate
No.
her.
Oh, I don't know why she always said that. Now we'll talk a little bit about our technical assistance program. This is a program that was developed based on the community engagements that we had, especially in 2023. We met with a lot of communities and we found out that there are a lot of communities that just don't know how to go about getting broadband into their area or don't have the financial resources to do so or don't have the expertise to do so. So we're like, okay, well, we need to level the playing field and make it a more equitable opportunity for all communities to participate in these grant opportunities. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity and we don't want anybody to miss out due to financial reasons or due to lack of expertise or lack of resources. So we created the technical assistance program and we made it very, very easy for people to apply. It was a one pager, just asked, what is it that you need? How much is it going to cost? And what is it going to benefit? And we asked you to demonstrate the financial need. We got a lot of applicants and we took those applications and we matched them with one of seven of our qualified vendors, depending on what that need was. And we made it really easy to where you don't even, as a local government, you didn't have to use your own or go through your own procurement department or process. So we provided the funding. We matched you up with a vendor, made sure that the vendor worked with you to create a project plan, a strategy plan, or help you fill in an application, or even just identify areas that are unserved or served in your area, and we paid them directly. Beth, you've gotten matched up in this area with Neo, and they did a great job and enabled a lot of in 2023, enabled a lot of applications to be submitted, and some of them were awarded, and a lot of residents or locations are getting infrastructure and last mile and fiber to their homes that without the technical assistance program, they wouldn't have. One of them was Kersey area was a receiver of a small grant for technical assistance, then enabled them to actually apply and get awarded. So that was a big win for us. We have multiple vendors that are on standby and ready to take any challenge that we throw their way. In 2023, we awarded $315,000 for this program, and $225,000 went in 2024 to support 22 local entities. It looks like the word went out in 2023, so a lot of the local communities raised their hand and applied, and there's one more application that needs to be assigned for the upcoming BEAD. So this number will grow a little bit in 2024 as we go. But the technical assistance program was a really good program. Unfortunately, it is now closed. If you didn't apply for it, you haven't been assigned a vendor by now, a little bit too late because the BEAD window's getting ready to open and the vendors need to get to work and collecting data for the upcoming grants. Our next slide. I'm not the expert on workforce development. The subject matter expert on this, unfortunately, one of them is Delia. She's gotten into an accident and
Oh,
she's
no.
unable to attend today. So we wish her the best
Yes.
and a fast recovery.
Yes.
So I'll try to stumble through workforce on her behalf.
You can do it.
And I know I will not give it justice. But I mean, also a lot of surveys and a lot of studies. You're on a, did I skip a slide?
It was,
I did, sorry.
that's all right. Am I on the right one?
Actually, we skipped the slide, so let's put workforce on the back burner for now
Okay.
and go to legislation. And I am not an expert on
That's
this
long.
area.
That's a Pete.
And that would
is
be
actually on the call.
Paige.
She's
Yeah.
really good at this.
Paige is on the call and she always runs us through these programs. Paige, can you hear us? Are you on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, we can.
Wow.
Great. So
Go for it.
Paige Osman, I'm a senior policy advisor with OIT supporting the CBO. And on this list is legislation that we supported from last session that ended up passing. So we're very excited about these 4 bills. Just quickly going through them, HB 24-1336, the Sunset Broadband Deployment Bill. We touched on this a little bit when we talked about the Broadband Deployment Board 2.0. So as we said, that is sunsetting. And the duties of that are going over to the CBO. So it's going to be operated in a similar function as the CPF and BEAD are. So it's really going to be great. We're going to have a work group instead of a broadband deployment board. So that work group is going to be made up of several different people, such from local governments, federal agencies, other state agencies, the community. And we're getting guidelines set. Right now, we're writing those up and we will have those hopefully sometime in the fall for open for public comment. This program is going to kick off next year, so 2025. Be on the lookout for that. And some of the major things that we're really excited about with this program is 60% of this funding will now go to middle mile, and then the remaining 40% is going to go to other underfunded things such as digital equity, pole attachments, pole replacements, satellite, long drops. Just a big bucket of underfunded needs. And it also expands the eligible applicants. So traditionally, this has been for only for-profit entities, and we're opening that up so local governments can apply to that. So be on the lookout for that. We're really excited about the new program for this one. HB 24-1234, Sunset Review of High Cost Support Mechanism Bill. So that bill is related to HB 24-1336, and that the high cost support mechanism was up for sunset review. They decided to continue that funding, so that will continue to fund the Broadband Deployment Fund. So good news there as well. Next one would be HB 24-1036. This is the repeal of certain tax credits. So with this bill, they had a huge list of infrequently used tax credits that they were going to basically get rid of. We noticed on that one of those was the rural broadband sales and use tax. We got that off of there so that we got that off of there so it's not repealed. So that sales tax will continue to be used. We thought with the influx of all this federal funding that people will take advantage of that more frequently. So definitely encourage you to look into that rural broadband sales and use tax credit. And then we have HB 24-1334. This is the broadband service for multi-unit buildings. This was a bill that we supported. Basically, it allows ISPs access to multi-unit buildings. They were having a lot of issues, particularly with mobile home parks, owners of mobile home parks not allowing ISPs on the property to deploy broadband. So this makes it easier for them by requiring 2 notifications to the owner, and the owner has to reply. If they don't reply, that's basically consent. So again, all of these should be really helpful for deploying broadband in Colorado. We are now looking into 2025 legislative session. We would love to work with all of you and collaborate and hear your ideas or hear any rumors that you've heard of possible ideas for legislation. We do have weekly broadband stakeholder calls. Be on the lookout for those. Around November, December, we bring together people from local governments, from state, from private industry and the community. And once a week, we just have a brief call where we present on what's going on with the legislative session. And then it's a chance for everyone to ask questions or to share comments or share what's going on in their particular jurisdiction. So if you haven't signed up for those, I highly encourage you to do those. If you need the link, just let me know. And my email should be in there. So feel free to email me at any time with any questions. And also happy to take them today as well if you have any.
Yeah, real quick, I'm gonna mangle this, but it's either for you or Lauren, I don't know. Is it the ACT, what is it called? The
ACP.
ACP.
ACT.
That's the affordability.
Where is it dead, gone, dead forever, never coming back?
We don't have it dead forever. Yeah, Paige, do you have more info on it?
There is some hope there. There is a bill that still needs to go through, the Senate and the House. So it's not dead forever. There is, Lifeline as well. It's still like, as of right now, obviously ACP is on hold. It's not around, but, it could always come back. We're on the lookout for that as well. I'm hoping that it does come back.
And when you guys say that, you're talking about Colorado legislature, right?
No, sorry.
That's
That's
national. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say, I saw it in our national newsletters and I wasn't sure if it was coming back.
There was
And
something that made it through committee at the federal level.
Oh,
though.
really?
So, I mean, that's a first.
okay.
Right, Paige?
Yeah, I believe it made it
Listen
through
that
a Senate committee, but it
Yeah,
still has
it
to
was a
pass the Senate and then pass the House committee and then pass the House and then be signed by the president. So long ways to go, but we're expecting a lot of changes. Obviously, it's an election year, so a lot of things can happen in the next coming year. So
Colorado's numbers were going up weekly, like really significantly.
Tell me what it stands for again, ACP.
Affordability Connectivity Program.
Yeah, we marketed for that a lot.
We did, and I think we had a lot of people on this. It really lowers the rate
Yeah.
for internet access for people up here
Yeah.
in the rural area. Just as an example, the fastest internet I could get was Comcast at my house, who claims 1 gig. I'd never seen it. But I did get around 700. And I pay about $150 a month, and my girlfriend's down in Denver, who have 1 gig, $50 a month.
Yeah.
And that's just a travesty, but anyway. So I felt like we had a lot of people in our communities between Nederland and Clear Creek and Gilpin that were using the program. And I think we marketed it a little bit at our health center where all these overlapping clients visit to get them access. I mean, I know I spoke to at least 10 vets that were like, can't afford internet,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, do this, fill out this form. So I hate to see it go away, but
Yeah, which is a really good segue into our next slide, which is affordability.
Good job.
Do we have any other questions or for Paige?
Can I speak real quick with a comment, general comment?
Sure.
So my organization, speaking to the Affordable Connectivity Program, we're the largest organization in Colorado that provides end users access to that. So we were trying to join this conversation just to let you guys know that we're also the largest organization in Colorado that signs people up for Lifeline as well.
Okay.
okay.
And who's who?
And I'm sorry, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Josh Billingsley. I run an organization here in Colorado called Outreach Wireless. We're the company you see at all the human services offices, the tents downtown that give away the free phones to the vets and the homeless people and people in low income and underserved areas.
And how successful are you with the new Lifeline program, which we'll talk about?
Yeah.
So we're a nationally recognized company. So we work directly with eligible telecommunication carriers, some big ones, Assurance Wireless, Gen Mobile, Track Phone across the country. So it's been a bit of a challenge navigating from ACP to Lifeline. I heard the the person talking earlier about where the funding is with ACP. So it's definitely been a challenge when the reimbursement from the government goes from $30 a month to $9.25 a month. So that was actually the reason why I was trying to join some of these calls, being that we work directly with these ETCs. In reading through the BEAD guidelines, we had seen that there's some opportunities with some of the funding that's going to be coming forward, that there might be a replacement for the Affordable Connectivity Program here in Colorado. And we just wanted to let you guys know that we wanted to be at the forefront of that, because it shouldn't just be limited to the internet service providers. Those eligible telecommunication carriers should also be able to present some plans to the BEAD program or the Colorado Office of Broadband, because they provide the mobile version of that.
Great. Really, thank you for joining the call. And if I could ask you, you're a great resource for these programs. If I
Yes.
can ask you to put in your contact information in the chat, that would be great, if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
Absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, we work with all of the human services offices around Denver, probation, parole. So anybody, if you look at the ACP numbers that are in Colorado, I think it stood at 225,000 last time I checked. Our organization alone is probably responsible for over half of that.
Wow.
Thank you. That's
Wow.
awesome. Yeah. Because marketing it was one of the bigger problems for,
Absolutely.
just
And
awareness.
that's
of it.
why I wanted to make sure you guys were aware of who we were, because as this process unfolds and gets navigated from the infrastructure side, the part that we come into play is our ability to get into the underserved and the unserved areas with our footprint, with our agents, because if they don't have access to the internet, they're not going to know that these programs or this infrastructure is rolling out. So being able to come up with a conduit which allows for that segue into those communities to let them know that these new low price options or things are coming, I believe that's where our organization can really be key to the Colorado Broadband Office. Not just the providing access to the eligible telecommunication carriers, because we'd love to have you guys join conversations with them for the mobile side of things, from tablets to phones to mobile access. But for our organization, where we have agents all across the state that have access to these communities, getting the word out into those communities and how we can play a part into that.
Yeah, and Josh, once the coalitions start forming across the state, that may be another opportunity to help get the word out as well.
Perfect. I put my name and our website into the chat for anybody that wanted to get that, and then I'll provide my email and my phone number as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Somebody's going to heaven. That's impressive.
Okay, great. So we pretty much covered this slide, talking about affordability. The CBO is really committed to promoting affordability. If everything that we're doing, we're providing the infrastructure, we're doing the digital equity, but if people can't afford it, then we're missing the mark on something. So we continue to promote affordability. Now with the ACP program gone, we got the new program, which is Lifeline, but also we are making it a requirement for any recipient of federal money or any grantee to have a low-cost plan that meets the minimum requirement speeds and a low-cost plan. And if they can apply or be eligible for the Lifeline, they can get $9.25 as subsidized for that service. If they don't want to participate in it, or they don't qualify for it, or whatever, they're going to have to still provide a low-cost plan, which makes it, and that's part of the application. You have to have that in order for you to qualify for these funding. So this is part of what we are doing to really push affordability. And moving forward in 2024, CBO is really committed to making access to the internet affordable for all Colorado families, as we do know that universal affordability is a big part of universal broadband.
Can I ask a question about that? The way that the BEAD program reads in the handbook that you guys provided, that 138-page document, it lists ISPs, internet service providers. Is that something that the ETCs can get involved in as well? The ones who actually have access to the Lifeline program. So when I qualify customers currently, we are putting them on the Lifeline program. So when we give away one of their free phones, we are putting them on the Lifeline program right now. Would they be able to be a part of that program where they're allowed to offer the lower end plan and get signed up to get those reimbursements or that grant program like the ISPs will be able to do?
So is this Josh again?
Yeah.
Sorry. Hi, Josh. This is Lauren. We are actually working on that specific part of our grant guidelines because we received some comment on it. And I've learned a little bit since we've released those grant guidelines. So we're going to take that as a get back to you because that part is not finalized in our grant guidelines. So, we're actually like meeting on it this afternoon. So that's more to come.
Okay. If there's any contact information I can provide to you guys, I work directly with T-Mobile, Dish Network, all those big ETCs. So if there's any information you guys would like from them or anything I can help as a conduit there, please let me know.
Yeah, we will. Thank you. I think the issue, just so you know, is a lot of small ISPs. That's hard for them.
Yeah.
This, becoming an ETC. So that's kind of the issue we're running into. So that's what we're looking into. But we'll get back to you and definitely announce more out of the office when we know what we're going to do.
And we work with the major ETCs so that they're interested in this program at the state level as to how they can contribute to it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll talk about our workforce development. That's a dear topic to your heart, Fred. We do know there's 49 other states that are going to receive funding. And there's going to be a lot of money and there's going to be a lot of workforce that is needed. We do know that this is going to create a shortage in the labor that we need in order to deploy this infrastructure, whether it's skilled labor or regular labor. BEAD funded projects will create more than 3,000 jobs in Colorado. Where did that number come from? Why is it 3,000 jobs? Because as we did our research and we collected all the data, we know that we need 3,000 more jobs in order to accomplish this. So that's our goal. And I'll have a little bit more data on the next slide. But what I say, I've been working in telecom pretty much my entire life, and I kind of fell into it. When you're a kid and somebody asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? You say firefighter. I want to be this. You don't say, I want to be a telecom dude. So
Maybe they do. I don't think so.
Maybe now.
We're going to make it cool.
Yeah, we're going to make telecom cool. Exactly. I'm going to have a t-shirt that says I was in broadband before broadband was cool.
Yeah.
But I studied electronics engineering and I kind of fell into telecom just because. So we want to make sure that, that just like you said, that, people that are working telecom and they're working on the deploying the infrastructure, whether it's underground facilities or aerial facilities or what have you, that they have not just do a job and then once the build is done, they don't have a job. There is a need for people to maintain that network that was built.
Technology ain't going away.
It's not going away. Fiber and the infrastructure does get damaged every now and then. So we do need people to fix it, splice it, and have that expertise. Electronics go bad. Electronics need to be upgraded. Splicing is a big part in augmenting networks and maintaining networks. So having all these skills and people that have possessed these skills can have ongoing careers in the industry. So there's a lot of efforts that are ongoing to create. We're collaborating with community colleges, even with internet service providers that want to participate in this to help create such programs and fund them and create that labor, especially the skilled part of it. Let's see, you can go to the next slide. It'll kind of show us where the needs are and how that 3,000 number came about. As you can see, we need 34%, which is 1,200 laborers. We need 650 foremen. We need 650 locators. Locating is actually a big part of this. It's broadband being a new infrastructure or a new utility going underground. We would hate to come into your community and bring broadband, but cut your water line. Or your electricity, then your broadband won't work. So in order to protect the existing facilities, you gotta have locators, and you gotta have skilled locators that can accurately locate the existing facilities. So we're working with a lot of ISPs, community college, a lot of industry to actually train locators on how to locate. And one thing that we were working on as well is making sure that, you know, locators can locate water facilities, gas facilities, electrical, because a lot of these are, you know, a lot of locators like, I can only locate water. I don't know how to do that. So we're trying to work with them to where, especially in these rural communities, you normally just you're limited on resources to do so.
Can we teach people how to call for locates first? A lot of times they don't do
And
that.
that is,
Yikes.
yeah.
It happens.
I mean, you are required to call for locates before any ground disturbance. So yes, I'm with you. We also need restoration crews, you know, as the crews move forward and they're digging and they're disturbing the ground, there's gonna be restoration crews behind them to restore it, make sure that, you know, they leave it at the exact same condition or better. Safety leads, safety is a big thing when deploying infrastructure. So we need 160 safety leads and other labor about 12% that are needed. And we have 2 people on the Colorado Broadband Office are dedicated to our workforce. Beth knows, Michael Murphy is great working on that, and he's made a lot of progress with this topic, and we're well on our way to be ready for this workforce once the BEAD gets awarded. Our next slide is our broadband readiness program, and that is a program that has sunsetted at this time because there's no more need for it. But it was also a program that also was a child of our community engagement. We went into communities again. They didn't know what they didn't know. They didn't know how to do it. And we're like, why didn't you apply for this? Well, we just don't have the manpower, or we don't have the money to hire somebody. That's where the technical assistance program came in. Or we just don't know how to do it, or what do we need? Also, having a community that does not have the resources and does not have the know-how was discouraging ISPs to work in that community. And as I was meeting myself, I was meeting with stakeholders. I'm like, well, you built this area and you built this area. Why didn't you build here? They're like, man, these guys, they just don't have the locators. I call in for a locate and they don't respond for 2 to 3 weeks. So it was very difficult there. So we created this voluntary checklist and we put it on our website. We told community, click on whatever you need help with, or you don't know, or if you didn't know, you didn't know it. Now it's on the checklist and you're like, oh, what is that? So we kind of collected this information and worked with communities in, you know, on individual basis and said, this is what you need to be educated on. This is the materials. This is what you need to establish to become a broadband ready community. And some communities needed more help than others, but we worked with them all and made sure that they checked all the boxes. And once they checked all the boxes and they were familiar of what are they gonna need, or how are they gonna prepare to accept such an infrastructure build in their community, we declared them as broadband ready, and we issued a certificate for them. And we also use this certificate and this broadband readiness to kind of tell ISPs that, hey, this community is ready. They know that they need to approve your permits. They know that they need to have locating resources. They know to make it more attractive for ISPs to work. And also it makes those communities a little bit more aware of what they need and how to partnership and collaborate with internet service providers.
Beth, are we okay on time, by the way?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
nobody else
we-
in here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we got like 3 more slides and they're really.
Okay.
Now we'll talk about specifically at Region 3, as we make it our business to make sure that we know everything that's going on in all of our communities across the state of Colorado. As we go, as we meet, as we collect data and site surveys, we make sure that we know what's going on in every region. In Region 3 here, we got our Boulder County, Broomfield, Gilpin, Clear Creek, Jefferson, Douglas, Arapahoe, and Adams. Out of this region, you have 959,000 locations. Out of those locations, there's 2,500 locations that are unserved, meaning they don't have access to internet at all. We have 7,000 and they're all right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's in my slide presentation.
Open in Clear Creek.
Yeah.
Says a tiny bit of Boulder.
So we have some work to do in this area. Also keep in mind that the percentages of the unserved and underserved exceeds the 100%. That's because the underserved also includes the unserved locations. But just a quick glance of this map, you could pretty see where the pockets that are unserved areas are. You got a little bit of red there in the Gilpin County that I know we're very, very hopeful that the upcoming BEAD project is just gonna turn all of those locations into green.
Us too.
Currently, in this region, there was one grant that was awarded during our CPF cycle. That was in the Gilpin and Boulder counties. It was a fiber to the home project. Total cost for the project was $14 million. We contributed, or the CBO awarded about half of that, $7 million, because the ISP that was awarded that matched 50%. See, there's ISPs that don't match 50% in your area. And this project is going to light up and serve 2,600 locations. And we want to award more and more in this region. This pretty much concludes our presentation for today. I'll put the next slide shows our contact information. We want to hear from you. We want you to reach out to us. We make it really easy to get a hold of us. You could get on our broadband, you could get on our website. We also encourage you to sign up for our CBO newsletter. It's a great newsletter, delivers all the updates and all the information right into your inbox, and you could read it at your convenience. We also have our bi-monthly community and industry roundtable calls. One of them is for industry. A lot of ISPs get on that call, and the other one's a lot of local government get on the community call. Just sometimes they just want to see what's going on, what's new, what's up, or they have questions and concerns. So we really encourage you to go to our website, and if you're not signed up for these roundtables, please do. Also, we have a section where CBO and the news, also our inbox, our email box is a good source. If you have a specific question, send it to the OIT Broadband email, and the administrator of that inbox will route it to the subject matter expert on your question or provide you with an answer, and also add it on our website on our frequently asked questions.
Awesome.
And at this time, we'll just open it up and see if anybody on the call has any questions, comments, concerns, or jokes.
So I printed this in April of this year. We presented at the Small Communities Workshop at Dr. Cog. I didn't print Gilpin. I'm sorry, Alyssa. I'm sure you can pull this pretty easy, but it's the Colorado broadband map. And at the time, it said percent of people in Clear Creek County served with 100/20 speeds, 56%. The percent underserved with access to 25/3 is 83%. And we have 5,400 locations. Locations without access to 100/20 speeds, 2,300. And locations without access to 25/3, 920. So, yeah, you're exactly right. This is a challenging area. This is the red dots and the map of hell, I'm sure, but like, but I think, it's hard. I mean, I remember when they came out and they were like unprecedented broadband money. And I thought, yeah, that's amazing. But then I thought about unprecedented mountain ranges that
Yeah.
you have to put fiber in or wireless. And, we heard from so many of our people in like the St. Mary's area, which is like a big red spot,
Yeah.
that they jumped on the Starlink bandwagon, and that's awesome. But once it goes over the ridge line, you're done. They all have a backup resource for internet. And it's usually some, 25/3, And I put in y'all's packets today, just really quick, I'll go over. I put in here our broadband presentation that we did at Dr. Cog for small communities. Me and Sam were there. And then I put our notes from our last meeting last week. So you can see that. Here's NeoConnect's share on being flexible on the project area map boundaries. And then I put this in here, I called it the challenge, because I think this is so representative of both our counties and the Netherland community. I had this guy call me from Floyd Hill, and he's like, hey, I have terrible internet, can you help me? So I pulled up his address on the FCC map, which is this. And it says he has all these providers, and I go, hey, look at all these providers you got. And that's a whole nother pedestal that I would get on, but anyway. And he says, yes, I already called every single one of them. And the only one I have are CenturyLink, Copper, and Starlink. And I said, thank you so much for that information. I'm meeting with you all this week and I'll share your story. He said, you bet. Our only options are challenging for a family of 5. We have 3 boys in school and both my wife and myself work from home a few days a week. It is a challenge for sure. And the price of satellite is a challenge as well. Yeah. I think this is such a representative story of so many of our people here. And, this is.
And I was gonna ask about that, is I think sometimes the maps make it look like, oh yeah,
We're covered.
we provide here.
Yep.
But we have found that that's not the case.
Let me explain to you, when we get a lot of these same exact calls and concerns. And the best way to handle this, or the way to instruct the caller or the person, is to go to this website, plug in their address, and see who is claiming that they serve their area. So a quick glance at this is saying that CenturyLink provides 10 down and 1 up. That doesn't count. It's irrelevant. The other one, so anything that is under 100 over 20, that's irrelevant. We don't need to worry about it. So what is making this location show up as served? It is the broadband internet service provider here that's saying that they serve 100 over 20 and unlicensed fixed wireless, and they also have fixed wireless 100 over 20. And the other ones are satellite, so we're not concerned about. So this internet service provider needs to be able to provide service to this address within 10 days of the resident requesting. And if they can't, this internet service provider needs to be challenged. So if you look.
How does the resident advise, who do they advise when, if Mountain Broadband does not provide that in the 10 days?
They have to submit that challenge to the FCC.
To the
So if you look at
FCC
the top
directly.
right, where that blue, it says challenge, they click on there and it'll say which provider of these listed that you want to challenge. And they'll click on it and they'll challenge it. And if they have supporting documentation that they can upload, meaning like I sent an email to the internet service provider and they replied back saying, I can't serve you. That means they're reporting inaccurate information. And unfortunately, some internet service providers do that so they can claim this resident and make it off of us. So these,
Bad karma.
we need to know about these. These need to be challenged, and these internet service providers, if they're reporting this address as served, they need to be accountable for that.
Yep.
So the best thing is when you're doing the right thing, and you're actually one of the first communities that I've gone to that has
Yeah.
printed one of these and know about it.
Mhm.
So that's great. Thank you so much. Because this is my daily,
Yeah.
administrative work is going through these.
Mhm.
So educating the residents when they call, go to this website,
Mhm.
plug in your address, see who's claiming.
Yeah,
That's why this here says serve.
I know.
So if this guy here can't serve you, this needs to be challenged.
Absolutely.
And click on here and submit a challenge as soon as you can.
And if they do that, the FCC handles it from there.
Yeah. Alyssa, one of the things Jamie and I talked about in the beginning was our county has about 14 buildings across the county. And the first thing I did was type in every address of our county buildings. And I think we've won every challenge we put in. And I mean, everything from where our transfer station is to our road and bridge facilities, to our coroner's office. I remember our coroner's office said served, it's right behind the Twin Tunnels by Idaho Springs. And we went down this list, which is extremely laborious and time consuming.
Yes.
And the fact that this guy with 3 children working at home called all these people is
Trying to,
is
right.
impressive.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I went down and Comcast said, oh yeah, we can hook you up. And they come out to the site because they got 10 days, they come out to the site and they go, oh, our line's on the other side of the creek. That'll be $20K to bring it over to you. And I said, no, thank you. And so, I mean, that's what, that was the challenge of the challenge is the onus on the resident and the business to work a full-time job, raise children, put dinner on the table and call 10 different
seriously.
ISPs.
But just to make it a little bit
Yeah.
more feasible or easier, just pick the ones that are actually
At the
changing
speed.
the status
Yeah,
of that location. So
Yeah.
again, just an example, looking at this one, you only have that one
Mhm.
internet service provider that is claiming this address and that's changing the status. So you only have to work on that one.
yeah.
That
I mean,
is
you might have to do it twice.
But again, for residents, that's gonna be very confusing when they see this list.
Yeah,
They don't
know.
understand the difference of,
Yeah.
oh, you're saying you can provide through satellite or through wireless. They don't realize we're just looking for that fixed.
That's
Wireless
part of what we need to do is to
education.
educate them. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say I get 5 to 6 either emails or calls a day with this exact same
Yeah.
topic. So if they're calling you,
Mhm.
you could just educate them the
That's what
same
I've
way.
been
Just say, do
Trying to
this.
show them,
Yeah.
yeah.
So over
Yeah.
here, you got 2 of these that are making this look like it's served.
Sure, yeah.
I remember there was a video, I don't know if it was you guys, the FCC put out like it was like a screen recording of this.
I was just gonna say, we have a video. that we-
Yeah. And
Yeah. FCC has
um,
one too.
okay, I shared it on our socials like numerous times, so.
Yeah.
Because like they were all saying that it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
how is a Joe Blow gonna remember how to do that or understand that? So,
Right, yeah,
I
those
think-
videos are really helpful.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
short. Yeah.
A lot of
So-
people don't even know the actual difference between like, what is satellite, what is wireless?
Right,
Mhm.
they
I mean,
don't.
Or what is
vendors.
NB per second, like the
Yeah,
people don't
exactly,
know
they
that,
don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's complicated,
It
but
is.
we're trying through our socials
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
educate people and hear back from them, because they do have valuable data.
Yeah,
And, we want to get that information out there as best we can.
yeah.
And it's just deflating when you see.
Well, and again, how do we get
Curved and
that
all
information
green.
out? Through the
Yeah.
internet.
Right.
We're trying to get
We
it out
sent
to
out,
them.
I think 2 postcards,
Yeah.
yeah, and each of those is like a grant.
Yeah.
Well, the FCC map has been, since they released it, constantly criticized.
Good.
Like, this is not accurate,
Oh.
and so I think it's being worked on.
Okay.
People are being educated and
Yeah.
providers are understanding that they have to do report accurate data. So it's a long road and a long process.
Yeah,
But hopefully it's starting to improve or
I'm
improve.
guessing it's a living map and
It's a
they're
living map.
updating all the time. Yeah, that's what I meant
It
by
will be
good. I'm like,
changing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, like what Aldi said, that's the
Yeah.
best way, which is not an easy way.
no,
But
I hear ya, but
yeah, it's a project.
For the sake of time, do we have any questions or comments from people online?
I just have one last question real quick, if I could. You had mentioned earlier you were looking at updating the verbiage on the BEAD grant guidelines. That was something you were meeting about later today that could possibly include ETCs in the future. if that gets updated, is there a way to stay in touch with that information going forward where I could look that up and be able to convey that back to T-Mobile or Dish Network or any other ETC that we work with?
Yeah, so the last slide on our deck, and I don't know if we'll share it after how that's working. Really, the best thing to do is to sign up for our newsletter, the Colorado Broadband Office newsletter, which
Okay.
If you go to that website right there and you scroll to the bottom, you'll be able to sign up. Every announcement from our office goes to that newsletter.
Got it.
And you can actually choose to receive news and bulletins about the advanced grant program too. It'll also
Okay.
go out there. That's probably the best way. Or just you can contact the programs team too.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
But yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for your time today. I appreciate it, allowing me to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh. Great information from you. Don't be surprised if we blow up your email.
Yes, please do. I would love to hear from anybody. Absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you.
No, thank you for hosting
Thanks
us.
for coming.
It's,
Thank you.
been a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Answering all my crazy questions.
We love your questions.
I mean-
You always have great questions.
What's that?
If you want to turn off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Honestly, like this is one of the best places to come because everyone's so engaged and
Oh, I hope
curious
so.
and